Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. This is Sean Hershey, and we are in episode 4, season 1, episode 4. Today, we are here to talk about the emotional work of healing, and I'm so glad you're joining me. So today, this podcast comes out on Sunday, but I am recording it today on Thursday, and Thursday, normally I work a half day, and I have 2 client slots open, and today, one is out of town, one client, and the other client moved to Wednesday. So I have a completely free Thursday, so we are going to talk, you and I. I'm gonna use this time to get into a deep dive of the emotional work of healing. So, okay, as you remember from last time, let me say this. If you did not listen to last week's podcast, I really recommend you go back and do that because there are 3 parts to healing, TMS. The psychological work, the emotional work, and the work of patiently attuning to your true self. So, last week we started with part 1, the psychological work, and this week we are doing part 2, which is the emotional work. Not easy. So welcome. We're not doing easy work, but we're doing important work. And if it were easy, you wouldn't be in so much pain, you know? Like, this work is hard for a reason. You already know that because here you are. Okay. So I want to start with what's the difference between the psychological work versus the emotional work? Because it sounds like in some ways it's that's the same thing. So what we're doing is we're moving from the energy of the head to the energy of the heart. The psychological work is the energy of the head, and the emotional work is the energy of the heart. Now, let me make this clear. TMS, like emotional and psychological pain, can be felt anywhere in the body. Head to toes, that can be felt anywhere. So when I say head versus heart, know that I'm speaking metaphorically, not literally or anatomically. So the psychological work that we covered last time, as a brief review, this is the work of the head. So it's internalizing and believing the correct facts about chronic pain, calming down the pain threat cycle, and core is learning to think psychologically, not physically. That's the psychological work. That's the energy of the head. The emotional work, we're moving into the energy of the heart. So in the emotional work, that's what we're going to talk about today. This is making peace with your emotions, making friends with difficult emotions. And what is the best way to teach your brain that emotions are safe? The best way is to feel them. Like I said, not easy. And it may seem easy on the surface, I feel my emotions all the time. I'm very emotional. Yes, maybe. And we are going to take it deeper. Okay. So yes, a key to pain treatment is befriending your emotions. Now, I just have to stop and sit with this for a minute because people doubt this. People doubt this. And I'm encouraging you, don't doubt it because there's so much evidence that this is real. A key to pain treatment is befriending your emotions. People will think my pain can't be about emotions. It must be, thinking thinking physically rather than psychologically. It must be something's wrong with my bones, something's wrong with my hips, something's wrong with my foot, something's wrong with my neck. Something must be, something is wrong at the site of the pain. It is a very different mentality to start moving into this world where you realize, wait, let me look at my emotional life. A key to pain treatment is befriending your emotions. I really want to drive that home and start there with that, making that clear. All of Dr. Sarno's work, all of Nicole Sachs's work, all of the people who do TMS work, they will all tell you the same thing. You may resist this fact, but it is true. A key to pain treatment is befriending your emotions. I know that's true personally for myself because as I do it, my pain decreases drastically. So I know that in my own body. I know that from working with my clients, I know that that's true. And I know that from all of the success stories in this world and some of the studies that are actually starting to come out, which is awesome. Okay. People in chronic pain, myself included, big time, have learned somewhere along the line that our emotions are a threat. So when emotions rise, as they literally do every day, emotions come up literally all the time. Your mind body system will see that as a threat, and pain will result as the danger signal responding to that threat. This process happens below the level of consciousness, and it is happening without you knowing it, which is why it feels like, I can't believe that's happening. I know. I know. I know if you're new to this, it feels hard to believe that that's happening, but that is happening. When your emotions rise, if you see your emotions as a threat, which if you have chronic pain and if you're pretty convinced it's TMS, then this is happening. You do see your emotions as a threat, and as they rise, a danger signal rises too, which is pain. All right. So, okay, let me get into this because there's a few different theories here that you'll hear. So I just want to speak to this because it's important to me. I'm the kind of person who engages in a lot of like intellectualization as a defense mechanism against my emotions and certainly as a defense against doing this work in the beginning. So I spent a lot of time like, how does this work? How does this work? Is this true? So I want to speak to some of the theories for all of you who out there who are like me and your brain is in a similar place. Because there's a few different theories you'll hear about the exact mechanism by which this is happening. And I was in a training with Dr. Howard Schubiner that I talked about in a previous episode. And someone asked him, like, which is it? And I was like, oh, damn, that's such a good question. So I'm like, on the edge of my seat. So let me just lay this out. One theory, which is the theory that I this kind of language I speak the most. One theory is that pain is a danger signal. So rising emotions pose a threat, and they cause the need for a danger signal. And then you end up not really experiencing your emotions. They stay out of conscious awareness because you're experiencing physical pain of the danger signal. So that's the first theory. Totally makes sense to me. Second theory. Pain is a psychological defense mechanism, much like denial or compartmentalization or intellectualization, like I was just talking about. And the pain exists as a defense mechanism to distract you or divert your attention from your emotional life, thus protecting you so you don't feel it. If you really look at that, theories one and two are basically the same. It's just the mechanism is slightly different. It's like the first is like pain is a danger signal, and the pain just naturally results when an emotion rises. The second theory is more like it's slight. I don't know. It seems like it's a little more like active. Like the pain is protecting you. It's actively stepping in. Um, Below the level of consciousness, you're not doing this yourself, but it's actively stepping in to protect you. Okay, so you can see how those two are basically the same, just with like a very, very slight difference. The third theory is that your body feels the emotions instead of you feeling them. So it's like you feel the pain, you feel the symptoms rather than feel the emotion. This is like, the first law of thermodynamics, which states energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is just transferred. So the idea is like, if you're not feeling the emotion, energy is still in your body. So you're going to feel it somewhere and you'll feel it as physical pain or as a physical symptom. So I've heard all three. All three make sense to me. And different practitioners sort of talk about this in different ways, these different theories that I'm talking about now. And so in this training, somebody asks, which is it? And I'm like, I'm like on the edge of my seat, like salivating, like, yeah. Like, how they say, like, ask your question because you never know. Someone else might have the same question too. I was like, yeah, like this, I have this question too. And what did Howard Schubiner say? To which is it? He said, I don't think there's any way to know. Which I was like, well, there you fucking go. I don't think there's any way to know. But something that he added, which completely makes sense to me, and I really want to drive home to you, is that no matter which theory is true, the solution is the same. Feel your true emotions and don't be afraid of them. No matter what, no matter how we see this, whether it's, pain is just coming up naturally as just a natural danger signal and it just happens, whether it's coming up as a defense mechanism, whether it's coming up because the energy is stuck in your body, no matter which is true, feel your emotions and don't be afraid of them. That is the emotional work. That will calm the pain signals because that will neutralize the sense of threat that accompanies emotions as they rise up, which will dampen and eventually cease the pain threat cycle. Feeling your true emotions and not being afraid of them will also eliminate the need for a psychological defense against your emotions. Okay, that makes sense. And feeling your true emotions and not being afraid of them will also lead to a discharge of the energy of the emotions so that it is transferred, if we're talking about the law of thermodynamics, transferred outside of you and no longer stuck in your body, transferring the physical pain back into emotional pain so you can feel it, process it, and move it out. So I wanted to do a deep dive on that because different people say different things, and I know what it's like. I have a TMS brain too, so I get your thought process. If different people say slightly different things, you will start doubting it because that's the way I react. That's the way people with TMS react. And so I just want to be clear, all of it makes sense. All of it can make sense, and you can make room for all of it because no matter what, no matter what this theory, like Howard Schubiner says, maybe there's no way to know. And yet, we know the solution is the same. Learn to feel and make friends with your emotions. So that's the emotional work. That is the basis of what we're talking about today. Okay. So let me say this. There's a huge difference between trying to fix or solve your emotions versus just allowing yourself to feel your emotions. Yes, I am talking to all of you who are like me, who think, I don't need to focus on my emotions because I already focus on my emotions all the time. Yes, that was me. What was I doing? I put a lot of energy into trying to fix and solve my emotions, which is different than just allowing myself to feel my emotions. I learned that the hard way. Okay? Maybe you're learning that the hard way too, but let's try to make it easy. Let's do this work and try to make it easy. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm a therapist and I have been for 10 years and so therapy modalities that I had learned and had been trained in mostly had an underlying assumption that was not even really spoken. And the underlying assumption was like bad emotions are bad, good emotions are good. All of this is in little air quotes, bad emotions, good emotions. And therapy is about solving or figuring out your emotions, which now I know mostly just leads to wallowing and ruminating because that's how you feel when you believe your emotions are bad. You're wallowing and ruminating. And TMS work is about going deeper. It's about allowing yourself to just feel. Emotions are to be treated as safe and acceptable and okay. And that is why this work is next level. Befriending and accepting and tolerating your emotions is a better way to live than trying to fix and solve your emotions. Now, of course, there's a place for fixing and solving. You know what I mean? Like, many problems can be fixed and solved. Awesome. That's great. And a lot of the therapy that I had done, I think I was a okay therapist before finding all this. And people who are trained in other modalities that are about fixing and solving emotions, like, awesome. A lot of great work can be done there. But you can't always fix and solve everything. That is a harsh reality that I hate, 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 hate. Oh my God, if I could fix all of the problems in my life and just in the world in general, how amazing would that be, right? I am someone who tries and tries and tries and tries and tries. If I could solve all my problems, they would be solved. You know what I mean? Like, I put in too much work, and I know that that's a TMS quality, and a lot of you out there probably understand. Certainly not everybody. Not everybody with TMS has that, but a lot of us do. So hello to my fellow I try too hard folk, because I am one of you. If it could all be solved, I would have solved it. But it's not. It's not possible. And in fact, trying to solve everything, if it's not solvable, makes it worse, because what you are doing is struggling against the emotions you don't want to feel and believing that those emotions are bad. And that is just like threat, 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 danger signal, danger signal, danger signal, danger signal, pain symptoms, pain symptoms, pain symptoms. You already know. You understand. You're listening to this podcast, so you already know. Okay. You'll always have emotions. They need to be accepted as part of life. And that is why doing this work is next level. So here I want to take a minute to talk about the symptom imperative, which we talked about a little bit in a previous episode, but like let's really have the conversation now. It is time. It is time. Okay. So the symptom imperative is something that Dr. Sarno discovered as he was doing his work with his TMS patients. The symptom will move around. That is the basic premise of the symptom imperative. This is because, so if you do the psychological work and say you have back pain, and then you learn that there's nothing physically wrong with your back, the pain doesn't have to be a threat, the symptoms don't have to be a threat. That will dampen the pain threat cycle, and the pain signals very well may stop firing. That really may happen. However, the emotional work in this example, this hypothetical example I'm giving of a back pain patient, the emotional work has not been done. So emotions will still be threatening, and they will rise again. Emotions are always, anyone can have an emotion triggered at any time. So after the back pain heals, it's like, oh God, my knees, oh, my stomach, oh, something happened and I messed up my shoulder. Oh God, my shoulder. Oh, headaches. I got back, something happened, whatever it may be. Long flight where I got a headache, and now I get headaches like every week. Went on a too long walk, and my feet, oh God, my feet, my toes, like they've never been the same since whatever. All of these things sound like they are not related to the back pain, right? Like they sound like a completely different thing that was triggered by a completely different physical cause, but it is very likely that these things are the symptom imperative. And what needs to happen is that the emotional work needs to be done. Okay, the emotions still need your attention, because the mind-body system, let me just make this clear. The mind-body system still fears emotions and still sees emotions as a threat. So while the back pain is no longer a threat, and then maybe the back pain is gone, which, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be, because maybe, TMS is mysterious. It's like, maybe the emotional threat keeps the back pain around, but maybe it doesn't. Different people respond to this kind of treatment differently. So it is possible that one symptom would go away, and then other symptoms that seem totally unrelated crop up. Here's the thing. Get it checked out if you're concerned about it, because obviously you want to make sure that you're medically okay. Go back to the what is TMS episode if you really want to, have a deep dive on like, how do you know if you have TMS or not. But, go get it checked out. And if it's looking like you're fine, if it's looking like it's TMS, then this is the symptom imperative. Oh, pain, is a danger signal. That is not up for debate. I just want to make that clear. Going back to Dr. Howard Schubiner saying, like, we don't know exactly what it is. That's with different theories of like what is the exact mechanism that causes emotions to generate pain. Pain is a danger signal. That is a fact. That's not up for debate. So that's like there's a period at the end of that sentence. Pain is a danger signal. And if you think of your emotions as dangerous, it's gonna cause pain, right? That makes sense, right? Like I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't need to ask. Like, do you get it? Because that makes sense. Let me talk just a little bit about my symptom imperatives, so that as we round out the section of this about the symptom imperatives, you have an example. So, like I've talked about before, childhood headaches, big symptom imperative of mine when I was young. Lower back pain, hip pain, huge one. Severe IBS, my worst and most intense symptom imperative. Then there's the emotional stuff, which those are symptom imperatives as well. Anxiety, OCD, body dysmorphia. I have had all. Neck pain, I've had I used to have really, like, when I was in my early 20s, really bad like neck and shoulder pain that I thought like maybe was caused by like the jacket I wore. And looking back, I'm sure it was caused by like all the stress I was under at that time. And trying to be okay, trying to like play it cool. Like, I'm an adult now, and like it's all good, nothing bothers me. But I was not well, and the shoulder and neck pain was definitely because of that. Hives, acid reflux. I will get like I will get like really bad acid reflux, like maybe like once every 2 months, once a month, like really bad, where I'll be eating and suddenly I'm like, oh god, oh god. What am I gonna do? Like, I just have to like lay down. Am I gonna throw up? Like, can I breathe? Like really, really bad acid reflux. And I know it's a symptom imperative, but there was still a little bit of doubt in me. But let me just say this so that so that you know this. There was one time, maybe like 6 months ago, where I got really bad acid reflux. I was eating dinner with other people, so I was like, "Oh no, 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 please no! Like, I'm gonna look like such an idiot. Like, because I'll get this really bad for like about 2 minutes, and then it just completely goes away. It's such a strange symptom imperative. So when I have it, I know it's not going to last long, but it really hurts and feels really messed up for about 2 minutes. And I'm like, this can't happen in public. Like, please, no. So I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, all I want to do is like lay on the floor and like moan, like, God help me. So I like can barely even talk. I get up without saying anything and just go to the bathroom. The moment the door to the bathroom closed behind me, the symptom went away immediately. Immediately. And I was like, I got you. I already knew that this was a symptom imperative, a TMS symptom imperative. And that moment, I was like, I got you. I fucking got you. So, okay, just another example of a symptom imperative. Um, Plantar fasciitis, that was a really bad symptom imperative that I had for a while in my, like, mid-20s, probably about a month of that, and that was nuts. I mean, w did I have any idea that that was another manifestation of what was going on in my stomach? No, I had no idea because it felt so different. One was like, "Something's wrong with my stomach," the other was like, "Something's wrong with my feet," like, I can barely walk. When I had bad plantar fasciitis. I was like, I was like mid-20s. I was like a social worker in a high school. I was like, I remember this so clearly, the shoes, because it was my feet. I would wear the same, like, I thought they were hot. Like, I would wear these, like, I was like dressing up as a business, like business casual professional. Like, it was like brown shoes with like they were like nice, small, sleek, little kind of like boot heel on the back. Like they were sexy. If I do say so myself. And I developed plantar fasciitis, and my feet were in such pain that all I felt like I could wear were like these awful bright blue running shoes that I had. And I would wear them to work. And I would, in the mornings, I would look at the shoe rack and look at these like, cute, like sexy adult male kind of. I was young. I felt like I was like cosplaying as a sexy adult male. I was like a child. And I mean, I shouldn't say a child. I was like 26, 27, but I was young and wearing these. I would look back at these shoes on the shoe rack when I had terrible plantar fasciitis and think like, how did I do that? How did I put those on my feet and just like take the subway, walk from the subway to my workplace? How did I possibly physically do that? And that symptom is long gone. That's a symptom imperative that is long gone. So there's just a bunch of examples from my life, and I've probably had more, and they all feel different, and they all come from an emotional and psychological source. The same thing will happen to you. The symptom imperative moving around is completely normal. The same thing will happen to you. Don't be scared of new symptoms. Okay? My message to you, don't be scared. It's just a manifestation of the same process, It's the emotions are still seen as a threat, and so there's still more work to do to teach your brain and your nervous system that emotions are safe. So, all right. Now we're getting into like the real juicy stuff. How do we do the emotional work to move past this stuff? Exposure. That's the way forward. The best way to show the brain and nervous system that emotions are safe is to feel them. Okay, I'm going to give you a quote from, this is literally from this week. Earlier this week, I met with Christina Sarno Horner for our supervision, and I'm taking like copious notes, and and I'm sharing this with you because this summed it all up beautifully. You do not need to solve all your emotional problems. The problem you need to solve is your relationship with yourself and your relationship with your emotions. Straight out of Christina Sarno Horner's mouth. I'm going to say that again. The problem you need to solve is your relationship with yourself and your relationship with your emotions. We're going to get more into relationship with yourself next week with, the healing through patiently attuning to your true self. This week, we're talking about the emotions. All right. So the goal here with the emotional work is to overcome TMS. You have to teach the brain that emotions are not a threat. What's the best way to do this? The gold standard is journaling. For anyone who follows Nicole Sachs's work, which I highly recommend, journaling. It's an excellent tool to get into your emotional life, explore your emotional life, and learn not to fear your emotions. Dr. Sarno first recommended journaling, and this I thought was so interesting, and I had never heard this anywhere else. Speaking of Nicole Sachs, I went to, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, I've gone to her retreat at the Omega Institute, and I met like a much older gentleman who was an original Dr. Sarno patient who was there with his wife. He was like doing well, but he was there with his wife for the chronic pain retreat. And he told me that I just like happened to sit down with them at lunch during the retreat. And, he's like telling me his story. He was like an original Dr. Sarno patient. He had such a cool story. He was like, had terrible back pain. And he's like, now I play, I don't play golf, so I don't even like know how to talk about it. But he's like, now I play like 18 holes of golf 3 times a week, and this and that, and I do whatever I want. And he was old, and I was like, that's just fucking awesome. Like, good for you. Way to like live your life, and way to like let this work transform your life, because it was clear from the way he was talking about it that all of that stuff was like totally inaccessible to him at one point. And he told me when he was working with Dr. Sarno, it was before he was recommending journaling, and the OG way that he recommended people get in touch with their emotions was look into a mirror and talk into the mirror to yourself to dig out your emotions and to teach your brain that your emotions are safe. I bring that up because there are many ways to teach your brain that emotions are safe. That's going to be a theme that we'll talk about throughout the podcast. So we're not going to, talk deeply about that today. But I do believe journaling. Well, okay, let me say this. Journaling has been the best way for me. Journaling is also a really excellent tool for many, many people who do this work. Is it the only tool? No. Is it a good tool? Yes. Will you not want to feel your emotions and therefore will you say, like, I don't like journaling? Yes. Should you journal anyway? Yes. Is it also legit that, like, there are other ways to feel your emotions and teach your brain that they're not safe? Yeah. Or that they're not safe, that they are safe, excuse me. Yes. There are other ways to do that. So we don't need to think, like, so rigidly, like that's part of the TMS problem in the first place, is to be thinking so rigidly. So we don't want to be thinking so rigidly that it's like, I must journal, I must do this, I must do that. That's the only way to get better, because it's not. There are other ways to get better. But I want to talk about journaling because it's a really, really good tool, and I don't want you to resist it. I want you to lean into it. If anyone wants more information on journaling, Nicole Sachs has on her website, she has available a course that is called Freedom from Chronic Pain. That was how I that was the first thing I did to really get into this work for myself. It was so helpful. And she goes deep, deep on journaling. She has her own style of journaling, which she calls journal speak. So great, so helpful, so cool. If you haven't done that and you have questions around journaling, do that. Highly recommend. But I'm going to give you just a little bit of information today. So, all right. Dr. Sarno's recommendation for when it came to journaling as a practice to get in touch with your emotions was to start by making 3 lists. And this, I highly recommend this. I highly recommend to go about doing this way. The first list, childhood and past stressors. The second list, daily life stressors. The third list, personality traits, meaning personality traits that are hard to live with, like perfectionism, like goodism, wanting to be seen as good all the time. Personality traits that make life hard. So 3 lists. 1, childhood and past stressors. 2, daily life stressors. 3, personality traits. This is not regular journaling, okay? What we're not writing is like, on Monday I did this, and on Tuesday I did this, and I'm going to save this so that in a year I can look back and think like, oh, that's what I was doing last year. No, this is not that kind of journaling. This is the kind of journaling where you pick something off the list. You pick something about your childhood, past trauma, difficult dynamics in your family of origin. You pick a daily life stressor, one of your current relationships, every person who you're close to. This is something Nicole Sachs says, which I think is brilliant. Everyone in your family, their name should be on the list of daily stressors. Because life is complicated. As much as you love the people you love, they also stress you out. And we are looking for the emotions that you've been too scared to feel, too scared to acknowledge, the emotions that have been repressed and hidden. And so things that you think like, oh, I don't have negative emotions about that. Listen, you might. If you have chronic pain, that is an invitation into this work, because you might. If you have chronic pain, you do have more negative emotions than you think you do. That's just like, I know that to be true. So yeah, I will say that confidently. This kind of journaling is about deep emotional exploration. No one sees it. Do not save it. Do not show it to anyone. This is just for you. So the way that Nicole Sachs recommends to do this, which I have done and still do. I mean, I for like a year I had a journaling practice. I did it every day. Now I do it like You know, here and there, but I still do it a lot. Like I'm in a phase right now where I'm doing it. Like I'm doing journaling like almost every day. And what Nicole Sachs recommends, which I will recommend to you, 20 minutes. Set a timer, 20 minutes, pick a topic, and just go. Just write and challenge yourself as you're writing to write about your emotions. You know, get into the emotional material. Ask yourself, what do you feel? Because remember, the goal is to make emotions safe. The goal is to bring the emotions up, feel them, to show your brain and your body, to show the whole mind body system, I can feel it and this is safe. Okay, what else do I want to say about journaling? Um, Here's an important thing is that what you write in your journal doesn't stay true. Another way to put that is that it's not the whole truth. What we're accessing here through this kind of journaling is we're accessing different parts of the self. Some parts will feel one way, some parts will feel another way. You know, everything is complex. I look back on my childhood. I loved my childhood. I felt safe in my childhood. I felt comfortable. I look back at like the neighborhood I grew up in St. Paul, so cute. Like I look back on that with such like nostalgia, like the blocks and the corners and the friends and the neighbors and playing like with like bungee balls and or what do you call it, like bouncy ball. Like we played so many games. It was such a cute childhood that I like really have nostalgia for and look back on just like, you know, the sun shining through the trees on the street. Like so cute. My friends and I on the porch making homemade lemonade, fighting with each other, getting into all this drama in the neighborhood, like amongst the like little kids. So fun. And another part of me was like, that childhood was traumatizing. I wasn't allowed to be myself. I was scared at school every day. I was alone all the time. You see how there's complexity there? Well, okay, let me put it this way. The emotions that are often not felt are the negative ones. Because when you have these positive, like everything's okay, let me actually put it this way. When you have conflict, like it's good and bad. I love it and I hate it. I enjoy it, but it hurts me. I need you, but like I wish I could be independent. Whatever it might be. These deep conflicts. Like I loved my childhood, but it fucked me up, you know? Like that I would say would would be one of my conflicts. If you have that, the positive represses the negative, okay? If you're like, "I loved my childhood," the "but it fucked me up" will stay either out of awareness or stay like not just like it won't be properly processed, won't be properly acknowledged. So what we're doing here is we're pushing, challenging ourselves and pushing into like I can acknowledge the positive, but I have to go and look at the negative. I have to. It is the way forward. It's the way to get out of chronic pain. Let that be your motivation because it's hard. It is hard to do this work. It's hard to like look at your relationships and say like I love you but like honestly I'm scared of you. Or I love you and I want our life to be perfect but sometimes I worry that I have this intuition that I'll never be fully happy with you. You see how that's like such a scary thing to say? And maybe that's true. And maybe it's not. And maybe it's only true for a certain part of yourself that just needs to get it out. And that is the purpose of doing journaling like this. The purpose is to just get it out. Okay. So one other thing that I want to say about Nicole Sachs and her work with journaling is so her and her partner Lisa developed a brilliant acronym that describes the process of making friends with your emotions. They call it the answer. I love this. ANSR. Allow, name, stay, release. Allow your emotions, name them, stay with them, which is the hardest part. And honestly, it's all hard. Allowing, even just like allowing your emotions is really hard. Naming them, staying with them, and you can see what that really is. Like, that's exposure therapy. That is teaching your brain and your nervous system that emotions are safe. Allow, name, stay, and only through that process will you naturally come to the end of it, which is release. Don't we all want to release our negative emotions, right? Like, wouldn't that be the fucking dream? Yes. This is a really good way to do it, you know? I wish there were an easier way to just release it, but there's not, there's not a if I knew a more effective way, I would be talking to you about that on this podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the best that I know. And so it's what I'm sharing with you because I know it works. Allow, name, stay, and that will lead to release. Okay. I want to say one other thing about this emotional work, which is like I am making the effort in this podcast to be really real and authentic. And like share myself with you because I mean, one of the main purposes of this podcast obviously is for information. I want to be able to, get the word out, teach more people, like, give you clear information about chronic pain so you can heal. That is so important. But the second part of this podcast is like to share myself with you so that you can see, like, yeah, there's another person who has done this and is doing this. And I'm not doing it alone. In that effort, I'm challenging myself to like share and be vulnerable on this podcast. But I do want to say, even on this podcast, where that is my challenge to myself, and the show it literally has an explicit rating, because I curse, and we're gonna get into explicit material as the show goes on. We will do that. Even on a show like this, I don't share everything publicly. So I want to make that clear because what emotional material you are digging for when you're journaling is the kind of stuff that goes beyond what most people would share publicly. Certainly goes beyond what I would share publicly, even in an explicit podcast with an explicit rating, with my intention to be honest and real. Go there. You know what I mean? Go there. Go deeper into your emotions than I go on this podcast. Go deeper into your emotions than people do in like polite conversation and daily life. Go there because it will help you. It really will help you. Okay, I do want to transition into talking a little bit about trauma. Trauma is a huge part of the emotional work, and it's not something to be afraid of. Like, most of us have dealt with some level of trauma. Some people say everybody has dealt with trauma. Some surely have dealt with more difficult traumas than others. But this is definitely in the spirit of learning not to be threatened by emotions. Trauma can be scary, but our goal is to neutralize that threat and not be afraid of this because the events are in the past and we can heal. The brain really can heal from trauma. And that's the work we're doing. That is the work we're doing. Okay, so trauma isn't what happened, but it's how it affected you. It's what stays with you. So I want to talk a little bit about so the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder in the DSM, which is like the manual that therapists use to make a mental health diagnosis. I just want to give you these so that you know what they are. This definition is not holistic. I want to say that before I read it because I counted myself out of this definition, and I definitely have been through some trauma. So I want to read this to problematize it, basically. Okay. And certainly many people many people do fit the criteria of post-traumatic stress. If so, you're in the right place. You are doing work to resolve your trauma. If not, and you have chronic pain, you're still in the right place, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so the criteria for PTSD in the DSM-5 TR, which stands for text revision, that's the most accurate or accurate. How dare I say that? None of this stuff is. I don't think these diagnoses are that legit, so I shouldn't say accurate. I should say it's the most up to date. Okay, so to meet the criteria for having a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, you have to have, according to the DSM, exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence. Already, that would take me out. And yet, I still have been through trauma. Um, the presence of intrusive symptoms, such as intrusive memories, nightmares, or flashbacks. The presence of avoidance symptoms, such as efforts to avoid distressing memories, distressing thoughts, distressing feelings related to the trauma, or efforts to avoid external triggers like people, places, conversations, activities, objects, situations related to the trauma. Negative alterations in cognition or mood, and hypervigilance. So when I first, knew about post-traumatic stress disorder, I'm like, yeah, well, that doesn't apply to me. But certainly I'm invested in learning about it so I can help, as a therapist, help people who have been through trauma, which I have helped many people who meet those criteria. There are many people, and surely many of you listening, who meet those criteria. Um, and you're in the right place. This is great work to be doing. You're in the right place. But even for those of you who don't meet those criteria, and you might be the way I was, in denial about the fact that you have been through trauma, that is the most common stance toward trauma. How many people have I worked with? Like, I'm thinking even like teenagers. I mean, heartbreaking. Like when I was working in a school, heartbreaking. Teenagers who had gone through such clear trauma, or were living through their family of origin trauma as we were working together. That certainly too. The emotional abuse, the emotional neglect, that all that kind of stuff. And the most common response to trauma is denial and repression. Like, it's not that bad. Other people have it worse. That is exactly what I thought about myself. That is exactly what so many clients have told me over the years. And I'm just telling you, it's so heartbreaking to hear that from a teenager who, to me, from an outside perspective, I'm like, textbook. Like, what you've dealt with is just like textbook difficulty, textbook trauma, textbook traumatizing. And here you are saying, like, it's fine. It's not that bad. Other people have it worse. And I will say, I was doing that to myself. And I also want to invite you to question, are you doing that to you? Are you doing that to the inner child inside yourself? Are you doing that to the inner teen inside yourself? Are you doing that to you? Dr. David Clark, who is a doctor, a mind-body physician in this space, he's a gastroenterologist and the author of a book called They Can't Find Anything Wrong. And he's the president of the ATNS, the newly renamed, it was the PPDA, is now named the ATNS, which stands for Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms. That it's like a group. Go on their website. Symptomatic.me is their website. Really, really cool group. It's a group that it's like a professional organization for TMS mind body practitioners, I think is probably the best way to describe it. Dr. David Clark, now I don't know where I found this, and I have looked for I'm like, did I find this in his book? I basically reread the whole book, or I re-skimmed the entire book and didn't find it. I've heard him on a few different podcasts, and I'm like, I've re-listened to them. I'm like, is this where I found this? Because I wrote these down at one point, like a year or two ago, and I don't know. If anybody knows where this list comes from, please email me. Because I can't find the source, but I know it's from him. And he has a list of the typical impacts of childhood trauma. And this is very different than the DSM criteria for PTSD. Okay. Typical impacts of childhood trauma from Dr. David Clark, who is a gastroenterologist, right? Like, hello, IBS people. Hi, right? Like, you can see why a gastroenterologist has to do all this professional work around trauma, right? Like that makes sense to you, right? Because you're here and you understand TMS. Okay, so the list. Believing you're a second-rate human being. No matter how hard you try, you'll just never be as good as other people. Having emotions that need to be repressed so you can get through your childhood. Low self-esteem. People-pleasing. You don't have an answer to the question, what do you do for fun? You don't do things for your own enjoyment. Instead, you do things that are, quote, constructive or, quote, useful. You give 95% to a relationship and you only get 5% back. Believing what you, quote, endured wasn't that bad and, quote, it could have been worse. Believing you don't deserve to put yourself on the list of people you take care of. And, of course, unexplained chronic physical pain. Wow. That list cuts deep because when I started this work, that is like check, 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 check. All of those apply to me. It's nice to read this now because I'm like, those don't all apply to me anymore. Some still. Still work to do. All of those things applied to me. And here I was saying, it's not that bad. It could have been worse. I don't count. You know, if I have problems, it's my fault, not the fault of my circumstances or what I've been through. It's me. Something's wrong with me. That's how I used to feel. And it's so important for me to lay this stuff out because I know that some of you feel that way too. If you have TMS, this is the pattern that you very likely fall into. And I know some of you feel that way too. That is the emotional work that we're doing. So Dr. Clark says it doesn't matter so much how the child came to believe that they're a second-rate human being, like whether it's like obvious trauma or more subtle stuff, like the stuff that happened to me, you know? What matters is if you feel like a second-rate human being and you feel your emotions are unacceptable or threatening and you believe that your true self is unacceptable or threatening. So like basically if you have all the makings of a TMS patient, the events don't matter. It's the impact. That's how trauma works. Okay, so let's round this out by talking about what do I do now? As you know, our work now is to train the brain to know that your emotions are not a threat. So here's my recommendation. Get out your 3 lists, get out a journal. I always do it on my laptop. It makes it easy. The point is not to do it right. The point is not to do it the way everybody else does it. The point is to do this in a way that will teach your brain and your nervous system that emotions are safe. And I just want to like make a little caveat to that because there's in the medical world there's so much fear around like we don't know what's causing it, so we don't know what's going to help it. So like anything goes. Try this, try that. Everybody needs something different, and that's so not comforting because it's like such shot in the dark treatment. Like, you know, will this help me? Will that help me? Let me just try everything on the list because I need something that's going to help me. Whoa, slow down. This is not that. This is actually very clear. What we're doing is teaching the brain and the nervous system that emotions are safe to feel. So anything that helps you do that is good. This is not like maybe it is a microflora imbalance and so work on that too. No, we're letting go of all that and we're going to focus under the one umbrella, which is the emotional and psychological work, which is there, you know, there's 3 little pieces underneath that, as you know, psychological work, emotional work, and the work of patiently attuning to your true self. That's what we're doing. Under that umbrella, whatever works for you is cool. But don't get scared that it's like, oh God, it could be anything because no, focus, 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 focus. We're focusing down. Journaling, make the 3 lists, choose an item off the list, set a timer, 20 minutes, and write. Something that I actually rarely do, but Nicole Sachs recommends, and I think is a very good idea, is that after your journaling practice, take 10 minutes to meditate. Why is that? Because if you feel your emotions and they become so, like shit gets real. I've been there. Like shit gets real when you're journaling. And so if the point is to teach your brain and your nervous system that emotions are safe, you need to have what's called a corrective emotional experience. If you're getting into your emotions and it's like super overwhelming and triggering and too much, and you come away from it being like, oh God, that's awful. I never want to do that again. That's actually not going to be helpful. So the reason we're getting into this stuff is to show that you can handle it. Meditating for 10 minutes after a journaling practice is a really good idea because it calms the nervous system back down. And really, I mean, it doesn't have to be meditation. It can be anything. Maybe go on a walk, maybe listen to music, just, sit contemplatively, if that, if that feels better than the term meditation, because meditation can be like stressful to people. If you're one of those people, fine, do something else. Anything that calms down the brain and the nervous system after getting into the emotional work, that creates it in a corrective emotional experience. That makes sense. Okay. So throughout the day, when emotions arise, this is another thing on the list of like, what do I do now? Throughout the day, when emotions arise, instead of thinking, oh no, oh no, oh no, I don't want to feel this. Oh, how can I fix or solve this? Rather, just think, okay, I can feel this. Okay. More on that in an upcoming episode. I'm going to tell a story about that to like help that land. When you feel emotions, you will feel them physically. Like you'll feel it in your stomach, you'll feel it in your chest, you'll feel it in your heart. You could feel it anywhere in your body. Like you will feel your emotions physically, as well as negotiate it. Like think about it mentally. And maybe have epiphanies in a more mental kind of way. Yeah, do both. That's what we're doing as we're processing emotions, feeling them physically, and negotiating it mentally. Do both. Okay. And always remember, the problem is not that you have emotions. Emotions are normal. Emotions are human. That is not a problem. The problem is that you're struggling against your emotions and you think of them as threats. No, just learn to allow them. I'm like speaking to myself as I'm saying this too. Like, that's hard. Just learn to allow them. It is hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for everyone. But this is the work we have to do in order to move on from TMS. This is the work we have to do. Okay. Doing the exposure work. This is how you teach your brain that emotions are safe. That is what I have to say about that. Okay, wishing you the best with all of the work that you're going to do. And I'm telling you, if you do this stuff, it will lead to healing. Like, it just will. This stuff works. All right. So before we're done, let me say this. If you are interested in weekly individual therapy, you can certainly contact me through my website. I have some openings right now, and I would love to meet you and help you through your process. The first thing we would do is we would set up a phone consultation, which is completely free. And if it's a good fit and you want to move forward, then we will move forward from there and we can get you set up for weekly individual therapy. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow it, rate it, write a written review. That would be super appreciated. That would be awesome. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, certainly feel free. It's at @mygaytherapist. Okay, it has been so fun talking to you. I'm wishing you the best. And we will be back next week together to talk about part 3 of healing, the work of patiently attuning to your true self. All right, I'll see you then.